Hello everyone, I am Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer and Information Science at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. This video today is going to take a look at object-oriented programming. So basically we're looking, at least from our class standpoint, if you're in my class, we're looking at chapters 13 and 14 here, and we're looking at object-oriented data hiding, encapsulation, and operator overloading is kind of what we're going at here. We're going to use the example of a month class, basically something that's just a wrapper for an int that holds which month of the year a date, a specific date is holding. So like January, February, you know, there's 12 months. I hope you know that. I hope you know that. So, but this is our example here, and of course we're doing this in C++. Okay, so here is our example. I'm going to develop this class called month. It is going to maintain one member variable, and it's going to hold the integer value. And you're going to see there I'm going to convert between 1 and 12 for human speak and 0 and 11 for computer speak, because it makes the math easier on our development side, and then we can still use everything exactly the same. The user is none the wiser that I've switched up from 1 to 12 from 0 to 11. So we'll need a constructor. We'll need a copy constructor. We'll need the copy assignment operator, two functions that do ultimately do the same thing, but they do things in completely different ways. And then we're going to take over the print operator, the string, the printing operator here, and then the increment, decrement, and plus equals, minus equals operators as well. So I'm going to show you how to do all of this stuff. And then once I show you all the stuff, then we're going to go ahead and test it as effectively as we can with the limited time we have to go about doing it. Okay, so here is, instead of writing it by hand, I already have it pre-written, and I'm just going to go through and describe everything that goes into setting up this class. So that said, here we go. So this is the .h file. This is month.h, and remember, every class in C++ should be broken up into two files as best as you can. There are exceptions, of course. And we get into those exceptions a little bit more in the advanced C++ course. But that's not necessarily for now, but just understand that detail. And so I have a month.h, and I'm going to have a month.cpp, because the header only contains basically the skeleton outline. It basically just contains the declarations of the functions that we're going to be using for this month class. And so those two files work together, and then we're going to use main CPP to work with that. If you don't do things this way, if you don't break up main from month, then you can't actually reuse this code, because if your main function is sitting in there, you can't just go off and just let anybody use this thing at any time. And so, okay, so coming back here. Here is the header. Let's go and describe this. So the pragma once is a Windows, as far as I understand, a Windows specific or a Visual Studio specific preprocessor directive. If you understand what include guards are from either a textbook or somewhere online, this is just a fancy way of not having to worry about anything when it comes to include guards. I do need to pound include IOStream because I'm talking about OStream here in this. We'll get there too. We don't need anything else to get this job done. And so I set up my class. It's called month, and this is where things get confusing, because I have capital M month, lowercase m month, all caps month, and I have constructor months, and it can get a little crazy here. And the more I've been working with this, the word month just looks absolutely crazy to me now. And I don't know, does that happen to you like it does to me, where the more you use the word, the more it just starts looking funny? But that's how it's working out for me. Okay, so this is our constructor. We're gonna pass in information for which month it is, and for the constructor itself, we're gonna clamp the values. If you looked at the previous the previous slide there. And so if the value is less than 1 for less than January, we're just going to say the month is January. And if it's greater than 12, we're just going to say that the month is December. We're not going to worry about month 13 being January or anything like that, or month -6 being whatever, June or July, somewhere in there probably. We're not going to worry about any of that kind of stuff. And then we're going to also have the copy constructor. Here is that. And so the copy constructor takes one month and copies the data into a new month as we're creating it. And so that's the same here as the copy assignment operator. This is that. And you can see that we pass in the same data to both of these functions. And as we'll show later on when we go to test this, I'll once again describe the differences between the copy constructor and the copy assignment operator. All right, continuing on here. Here is the operator for print, chevron, stream, however you want to talk about it. It is a friend function, which means it's not really a member function. It's not a global function, and it's not a member function. So it's that weird limbo land where it's like, well, what is this thing? And this actually causes trouble with object-oriented inheritance and polymorphism and stuff like that. So we do have to have some workarounds. But for this case, just to get this month going, we're going to do this, where it returns a stream, takes in a stream. So basically, you know, so I can, and then takes a month as well. So if I had something like cout, and then I had something like a month, if I just m was the month, something like that. If I don't have this function and I don't define it myself, this will not be allowed by the compiler. And again, we'll describe things as we go. Okay, so now remember with the increment, with the increment and decrement operators, at least in C++, there are two ways to go about doing this. There's the pre-way and the post-way. Like, what am I talking about? The pre-way is something like ++a, and the post-way is something like a++. And these things do different things. And we're just going to treat them the same, but I just wanted to show you that there can be differences between and different functions that handle both of these cases. And so just so you understand that. And what do they do? And again, that's for a previous lecture. That's not for this moment in time, how the ++ operator works, how the minus operator works. Find that. I don't recall exactly which chapter that's in, but please refer back into your textbooks or just look online, the difference between the pre and the post. Okay, and then the other ones here, plus equals and minus equals. So instead of incrementing or decrementing by 1 month, we can increment or decrement by as many months as we want. And the thing about all of these functions is that we're actually going to wrap the months around, unlike what we did with the constructor here. So what we're saying is, if I'm in December and I want to increment by 2 months, I'll get February out of this thing. Or if I'm in January and I want to decrement 3 months, I'll end up in October. So everything kind of wraps around like calendars do. Okay. Oh, and then of course, all under the hood here is private data that is the month in which this object is the data is holding here. So this is where the data hiding comes from. It's private data, and we don't have a get function, but we can print. And if we wanted to, we could add a get function. It's not like it's a big deal or anything. It's just a one-liner in code to return the value of month, a copy of the value of month. But you get the point here. The data hiding means the data itself is private, and then we allow public access to the data in ways that we see fit, so that people just can't come in and willy-nilly change things and ruin our lives. That is our job as the developer of, our responsibility as the developer of this class. Okay, so that covers the header. So now let's discuss here, let's move on over into the land of implementation. All right, so let's move this over. It's going to be over here now. This is our public API, and we'll come back to that in a minute or a couple minutes. But then here is our month.cpp. So here's everything that we need to get all of those functions implemented. So the first thing I need to worry about, I do need to include month.h, because there's no way for these functions to know what they're a part of unless we include the header itself. And again, these are now definitions. The previous were declarations of functions. These are now the definitions of functions. Okay, so our main constructor, remember we take in a month, and again the human side of things are going to pass in a value from 1 to 12. And if it's anything less than 1, we're going to make it a 1, and if it's anything greater than 12, we're going to make it a 12. The only difference here is the human side of things goes from 1 to 12, and to make our math easy, which I'll show in a couple minutes here, that we want to reduce and make this starting from 0. So 0 will be January, 11 will be December, still 12 choices. But then again, when I increment or decrement things, it makes the math easier to do. Because trust me on this, I tried it earlier and it just got a little crazy, and I figured it was better to do it this way than it was to just contrive all the math. And while it would work, it's more code than it needs to be. So one little thing here where you subtract off 1 means a lot. So then once I subtract off the 1, if the month value is less than 0, make it 0. And if it's greater than or equal to 12, make it 11. And this, I guess you could just think of it however you want to here. But again, this is January and this is December. And so that's very cool, because when I hit this closing curly brace, our data for the month is always going to be in a valid state. It's always going to be a number between 0 and 11 with this clamp function. Okay, so there's that. And now the difference here, again, between the copy constructor and the copy assignment operator, you can kind of see here that the syntax is totally different. The constructor can use the initializer list, which sets the data member to whatever's coming in's month. So the data is being copied, properly. Same with here in the copy assignment operator, whatever's coming in the month. So at the end of the day, again, this is all doing the same stuff. But we're going to discuss why when we go to test this, why, so you can see what's going on. So, and you might be wondering, why don't I check for this here? Why don't I do the clamping for the copy constructor like I did for the normal constructor? And the theory is, and this is where you can get yourself into trouble, but I'm just showing you an example here. The understanding is that if all of my other operators work properly and my constructor works properly, the data will always be in a proper value between 0 and 11. So when I go to copy from an object into another object, or either way, there should be no reason to worry about the data coming in being incorrect, invalid, being garbage. And so that thinking about that can get you into huge trouble. But for this example, I just wanted to show you that it's possible to do that. If you don't like that, then just go ahead and add the code, or you can even add a helper function or something like that, so you don't have to duplicate the code over and over and over again. But in this case, I think you only need to worry about it one time, and this is it here. Okay, so constructor, copy assignment operator. Here's the print. This will save, this is a little tip if you don't know, this will save you a lot of time in your futures, all of your futures, so that I don't need to have a ton of if statements. I don't need to go, if the month is 0, print January. If the month is 1, print February, blah, blah, blah. 12 if statements or maybe a switch statement or anything like that. So again, if I know that the month is a valid value between 0 and 11, then I can set up an array. And I'm not using a vector. I'm just setting up a quick and dirty array of strings that can print out the months of the year. January, February, the 12 months. You should know the 12 months. So then all I need to worry about is just accessing that value inside of as an element of this array, and it will print precisely what that month is in English, or at least in 3-character English. And so remember, this is a friend function. And so this passes in, or this is basically how we do things here, where you have a left-hand side. Whoops, I don't know what just happened. So you have a left-hand side is the cout, and then you have your operator, and then the right-hand side will be a month object. So this is what we're doing. And the reason why we return, in this case, we return a stream reference, is if I wanted to chain them together. If I had multiple months or something like that, I could go ahead and do that. Something like this. I couldn't do this otherwise. I wouldn't be allowed to do this if I wasn't returning the stream to chain them along. Okay, so that covers that operator. And now the other 6 are basically the same thing in different forms. And I'll show you that right now. So my operators might look a little different than you're expecting to see, but again, this is all for your benefit. Because again, the main goal of any writing, because programmers, we're all lazy, well, I say quote unquote, we're lazy by nature. There's a lot to keep track of. If you haven't noticed yet in programming, there's a lot to keep track of when we're dealing with this kind of stuff. And the less amount of code and the less amount of everything I have to do that gets the job done is going to be great for me short term, medium term, and long term. Not just for me, for anyone else who ever works with my code. Future me or future other people. And so in this case, this is kind of weird. You're like, what the hell are what am I seeing here? And in this case, remember the pre-increment versus the post-increment, which is, I'm just going to keep exactly the same for this example. But you're like, what in the heck? What is this star this plus equals 1? So what star this is me. Remember, this is the object. This, everything in here is a class. But then when you're running the code, it's an object. Like you said, right? Because it's the class.h file, that's basically just the blueprint. But when you stamp out an object as the program is running, then you're dealing with a concrete object. And so when you're dealing with something like this is I hate when this happens. Once I say the word this, then every word I want to say is this when it comes to this. So, and I'm not even being funny, this is just being stupid because the word this starts incorporating itself into everything. So star this is me, and what I'm saying is take me and add 1 to me, because I'm a month. Add 1 to me. And so the left-hand side is a month object, this is the operator, and the right-hand side is an int. So I'll talk about how we do it later, but so this when I call this operator, it ends up actually calling this operator to do the job. Because again, the left-hand side is a month object, the right-hand side is an int, so it's going to do this. And again, I'll describe this in a minute. So same code for pre-increment and post-increment, where I'm going to be adding 1 to the month. I'm going to be adding 1 to the month. And so the same goes for minus, pre-increment, and post-increment. But in this case, I'm using the same function. I'm not using minus equals, because I don't need to chain this thing like 3 or 4 times over. But what is minus but the inverse of plus? So what I can do here is to say, take me and add -1. Isn't that the same as subtracting 1? And it still calls the same function as these other operators are working on. And that way, when we get down to it again, that we're working out, and the code is only going to be placed, the actual code that does the work is going to be placed in only one place. And so if I need to fix something, if there's a bug, I don't have to worry about 6 or more different places of working out that code. Who wants to do that? And if you forget one, you have yourself a subtle bug that's so much worse than a bug, because if it works wrong every time, you know how to fix it. But if it only works wrong occasionally, that's going to give you headaches, and that's going to drive you freaking crazy. Okay, so that too, and then the final thing here is it's the same deal for the minus equals. Let me just call plus equals with the negation of the number of months that I want to change. So if I want to subtract 3 months, it's the same as adding -3 months. And all of these are returning star this. And again, it's the same chaining discussion that I had when we were talking about the stream operator here. That if I want to chain these operators together for I don't know what reasons, but if you want to, it's not my job to think about all the things you want to do with this month class. It's your job to do that. So if you want to go ahead and do that and string these things together, it's your job. You can make it happen. So basically, we're all good here. And so now this is where the math comes in. This is where the magic happens. So I want to add a certain number of months. It could be positive, it could be negative. And so you would think I would just do it. But what would happen if I was in month 12, I was in December, and I wanted to add 6 months? There's no such thing as month 18, but according to the way calendars work, that would be month 6, that would be June. And so this is how we can basically, instead of clamping like we did for the constructor, this is how we go ahead and work with, I forgot the term, I'm just thinking and talking and everything. I'm on speed dial here right now, speed run. So so you can add this and you can wrap things around. I'll just use wrap. So what I do is I add the number of months or subtract the number of months that I want to. Then I do a mod by 12. Because if I take 12 and I add 6, that's 18. And then I mod that with 12, well, I get 6. I get June. That's what I want. That's the month I want out of this thing. 18 doesn't do me any good, but 6 does. So that's what mod equals is. And here, what is this? You say there's three levels to this. 2 of them, you're like, why are we even doing this? And this is the third one. And this is just, I don't know if this is just straight computer science. I took math a long time ago, and I don't recall there ever being a negative modulus in pure mathematics, as I do remember it, because it happens all the time in computer science. If month was a negative value, and I modded it with 12, that will return me a negative value. So if it's positive, if month is positive, I'll get a value between 0 and 11, because that's what modulus does. It gives me the remainder, an integer remainder, and everything up to 12, so 0 to 11, 12 options, perfect. But if the value is negative, then the modulus will give me something between negative 11 and 0. And so you're like, well, that's not good. I need to be able to do something with that, 0 to negative 11. And so if the month is less than 0, then we're going to have to add 12. Because if I had negative 11 and I add 12, what is negative 11? If I start from January as 0 and I work my way back 11 months, that's going to be February. But if I have but if I take negative 1 and I add 11 and all that stuff, we'll get the month that we're looking for. And I'm still not 100% sure that this code is working, but that's why we do our tests. Because I just talked myself into a world of confusion, and if I'm talking myself into confusion after having written the code, then how is this going to help anyone else if it's not working right? No one's going to be able to figure this out. Okay, so in essence, these are our operators, these are our function calls, and now the testing shall begin. Okay, so how do we test out all these things? Let's test out the month class. So at least the constructor here. So I'm going to create a month, and I'm going to create a lot of these things with different values. I'm going to say -1. Let me just create a few of these and see. I don't know how many we'll use, but just to have them. We'll eventually need them all for our testing. Okay, so what happens if I do -1? What happens 0? What happens 1? What happens 2? What happens 11? Don't have to do all of them. So let's try out all of these. And I'm going to use the debugger so I don't have to worry about printing out everything right now, at least. We're going to test the print, but not right now. All right, it all compiles. So -1 should give me a 0. Remember, 0 is January. 0 should give me 0. And then a 1 should give me 0. Remember, we're taking January, the 1 that's coming in as a human-readable number, and turning it into something the computer can work with it better. So that should come out as a 0. This should come out as a 1. This should come out as a 10, which it does. This should come out as an 11. This should come out as a 12. Oops, 11. Oh, sorry, forgot about that again. Yeah, 11 should give me 10, because that's November. This is December, which should give me 11. And then anything past that should also give me 11. See, it's too easy to go crazy here, the computer counting versus the human counting. So yes, all of the constructors have worked. So basically, at least at this point, I can conclude pretty positively that the constructor is working properly. Alrighty. So now the copy constructor, month, which one should we use? I is equal to H. We'll do something like that. And then I can do G equals C, something like this. So again, this is where the difference between the copy constructor and the copy assignment operator come from. And so you can maybe see the difference here. The code is different on this end. This is the copy constructor. This is the copy assignment operator. And how do I know that? I know that because I doesn't exist yet. I is being constructed. It's being created in this line of code, and it's using the H object, which already exists, as the template for copying the data in so that they're basically equal when it comes to the values stored inside of the different objects. As opposed to this line of code where G exists and C exists when the line of code is trying to be executed. There's no reason to construct a whole new object, and so now all we have to do is copy data from one existing object to another. So you can see that now when we go in here. And again, remember, as long as this worked out properly, like we were saying, we don't need to worry about the clamping like we did in the regular constructor. So I hit F11, and I go in, and you can see here that I'm setting up, this is the copy constructor, like I discussed, to set everything up. And then I is 11, H is 11. Okay, and then now here, this will take me into the regular copy assignment operator. So month is 11, this guy is 0, so this will be set to 0 when all is said and done. Because C is a 0, and now G is a 0. So that takes care of that operator. And then just printing is very easy. And so something like this. What if I see out A, which is a 0 at this current moment? And then what if I increment A and then print it out? Oops, I'll have to use std : increment. How about then I decrement and then I print again? So let's see. So this should print out January, then it should print out December or February, then it should print out January again. If I did it right. Let me get rid of the debugger. And now you can see, because 0 is January, and it incremented to 1, which is February, and then back down to 0, which is January, it worked out fine. So let me try out minus minus and plus plus. Let's do it the other way. So January will come around and go to December. So there you go. January works its way back to December, which works its way to January. So everybody's happy. So let's see. How about instead of A, how about I use F? So let's see what that does for it. F is December. Subtract 1, we go to November. Bring 1 back, we go to December. And what if we try to go the other way around? And just for the sake of this, I'll use the other operator. The other side, I'll use the post increment versus the pre-increment just to test that out as well. And you can see that December becomes January, and then when it works its way backwards, it works its way back to December as well. Okay, so we're happy with these 4. So the last 2 things before we call it a day here is to check out the plus equals and the minus equals to see if we can wrap around and just go crazy with the number of months instead. 1 is easy to handle, right? But what about 22 or 116 months or any of those kind of numbers? All right, so we just got to try crazy things out. Let's see. F starts out as December. And if I go ahead and say, okay, December, what if I add 19 months? I should get July. Because December becomes December 12 months in. And then we got 7 more. So we got January, Feb, March, April, May, June, July. And then when I subtract 1 off from that, I should get down to June. So let's see. December, July, June. And I get December, July, June. So I'm pretty confident that this is working. But what about the other way around? Here, we could just say, if I start with December and I go 10 years into the future, I should end up with the same month. And December becomes December, which is exactly what I'm hoping for. And so I'm pretty confident that the plus equals is working, but what about the minus equals, right? Let's see, December should become December, which should become January, if I did this right. And there is that. December becomes January. And then just to test this out one more time, if I have December and I subtract off a weird number of months, let's do 22 months, I should get February. Starting from, or 22, or no, I should get, I should get February. December becomes February, becomes March, because I'm now adding 1 back. Taking off 10 months from December, 12 becomes 2, the second month of the year is February, add 1, you get March. So it's all working. Everything that we have set forth is working, and we've done our due diligence, and we've set ourselves up nicely for future me and for future you and future anyone else working with our code. So just to reiterate here, looking at all this stuff here, we pre-incremented and post-incremented. We allow the print operator. We have copy constructor, copy assignment operator. We got constructor. We clamp when we start, and then we wrap around when we need to. We have 6 functions, but the code, all 6 functions tie into one function so that we don't have to worry about reinventing the wheel and writing the code in 6 different places, or even more if we add more operators to our class. This is the only place we need to worry about it if it's broken. Seems to be working. And we're happy with that. There's our clamp. And again, this was a cool way to save myself and make 2 lines of code instead of many, many, many lines of code for how to print out which month of the year it is. This doesn't work always, but it works perfectly fine for something like this where you have a series of values that you could possibly print out. So that covers everything I wanted to cover in this video. I don't know how long it is. This is my 7th cut that will get brought back together. So probably 20 to 25 minutes or so. But it covers all the basics of chapters 13 and 14 when it comes to getting going with object-oriented programming. So the next topics will be inheritance, polymorphism, virtual functions, those kind of things. You know, the abstract classes and all sorts of stuff in the next chapter 15. And as always, if I misspoke, since I know I talk fast when I'm not around people and I'm just sitting here, if I misspoke or if you don't understand something or anything at all, computer related anyway, I'm only good with computers. I can't solve world hunger. I wish I could. I'm trying, but I'm not very good at that. But I am good at writing C++ code. So please send me a comment down below here on the YouTubes, or you can comment or send me an email at swardb@cod.edu, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thanks for sticking this out with me as always. Hope to see you guys in the next videos. Have a great day. Take care. Hope to see you then.